All right, well, I guess let's just dive right into it. So, my first question that I'm very curious about is the two of you are parents to obviously one of the best Valorant players out there in the ecosystem right now. And although he's getting older now, like he's in his I think late teens or something like that, I'm assuming that gaming was a big part of his life for a long period of time. So, this is a question that I have for a lot of parents oftentimes is like, what was it like as parents embracing gaming, embracing esports? Was that difficult for you? Did you have to learn a lot about it, or did you actually introduce him to the gaming world? I'm just curious what it was like embracing the gaming and esports side of things as a kid was coming up and developing and growing.
Starting out when he was very young, like 5, 6 years old, we got a Wii, and we play the tanks and the other, and we got the Wii Sports, so we play all those. And I'd never let him beat me. He had to earn it. So my wife would be like, he's all upset. Why don't you let him win? I'm like, nobody in his life is ever going to let him just win. He needs to learn how to lose, and then gracefully, I used to tell him, don't cry, it's a game, But I said to him, you get home at like 2:30, 3 o'clock after school. I'm not home from work till like 5:30. You have 3 hours to practice to get better than me. And I told her, like, in a week he's going to be beating me because he was actually pretty good, even though he wasn't winning. He just had to get the mental part of it down, I guess. But yeah, within a week, I came home. He was playing Wii tennis by himself, so he was all four characters. Because by the time his score was much higher than the computer generated, the AI, guys that they had in the game. So he just figured, I'm not going to play against them. They're not good enough. So he just played himself. He used all four positions, hitting fast serves, returning fast serves, and stuff like that. So
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, and he got into other games. He got into Smash Brothers, and I know I used to flip through the channels like on ESPN2. They'd have the Smash Brother Championships. So I go upstairs to his room. I turn the ESPN2 on, and I go, these guys are playing the game that you play, and I bet you're better than them, and they get paid. So trying to hint to him, there's a world out there where you can make money playing games, which wasn't there when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So,
Even when I
yeah.
was a kid, that still wasn't a thing, and that's I don't know. I think I came up around like the N64 time. That was like one of my first systems, but it still wasn't esports or professional gaming wasn't a thing back then by any
No.
means.
My
Uh,
first game was Pong, so yeah.
that's a little bit before me as well. Okay, so I'm very curious on what you were just saying. So he started playing with Wii and everything like that. What age range was that? Was that like I don't even know when the Wii came out, to be quite honest, off the top of my head. Was it like 10, 11 years old? Was it 13, 14 years old? What was
No,
the age range where you actually started diving in?
he was like 5.
Wow.
He actually started Taekwondo at 4.5. And the master in the gym said, he's a little young for our classes, but let me just work with him for a few minutes. And he was very impressed on how Zach could follow directions. So he let him join the Taekwondo. He ended up a black belt in Taekwondo.
Wow. Was it that he had like an innate competitive side of himself to it, or what was it that like made him a black belt in Taekwondo, wanting to serve against himself in Wii, playing Smash? Like, what was it that actually drove him? I mean, it sounds like you guys set up the environment for him to do that, but what drove him to want to actually like pursue the competitive side of these things?
Because Sak is our only child, and we want to make sure that he's always with other kids. So we try to put him in sports.
Played basketball.
Yeah,
too.
basketball, taekwondo, swimming. He's used on attending tournaments since day one. So we always go on his tournaments on his taekwondo and basketball. So we're always like traveling since day one. And from there, I mean, we see how Zach is very happy. You know how boys are, they're very energetic. They want to like be with other kids and play. And he's having fun. At the same time, he's meeting a lot of friends. And that's how it started. So doing tournaments is really part of his daily life since he was young.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you said you weren't going to let him win. It was going to be something that he had to earn. He had to learn how to lose gracefully. What was that process like with like a 5 to 10-year-old? Was it like he immediately got into being a graceful loser and adapting to it? Was there a long haul of like how
It
did you
took a
actually get
little
it?
bit.
Did it? Because I know there's some parents I've talked to and they've asked this question to me actually, and I don't even know what the answer is. It's like, how do I get my kid to lose with grace and dignity and learn from losses? So I'm very curious on how you guys taught him how to do that.
Between, well, he didn't actually lose a lot in Taekwondo. That's for one thing. But you know, he'd be all upset because he's not winning, and my wife would be like, "He's crying. Why don't you let him win?" You know, I'd be like, "Well, nobody's going to let him win in life." And I talked to him. I never used baby talk with him. He's actually started speaking in sentences way before most people did, because I always talked to him like he was another person, like even when he was a baby. So he'd learn how to talk, and so I talked to him. I'd be like, crying's not going to get you anything. You're just wasting emotion at this point. You just need to calm down. You need to practice. You have. I tell them about the time difference. You have 3 hours to practice every day when you come home. And I said, in pretty much no time, if you practice enough, you'll be better than me. So it really won't take you that much, son. And so he'd get a little, he'd still cry a little bit, then he'd cry a little less, and then he's just gonna get annoyed that he was losing, But then eventually he started beating me. So yeah.
So it almost.
Sorry.
Go for it. Sorry.
And
Go for
also, besides supporting him when they're like losing the game, or he's not winning, we always make sure that the coaches are aware that Zach is upset. Maybe you can do some advice. Like, he believes with all his coaches. The coaches are big roles when it comes to sports to him. So besides with our moral support, we also ask the coaches and the teams to, vent out and help each other, because I believe that support system is very important to all athletes.
Of course, this senior in basketball, they went undefeated, so there was not a whole lot of.
Yeah, that would help. With coaches, because that's an interesting one. I'm curious, like with Zach specifically going through the gaming side, esports side of things. Was there ever any point where he had somebody coming in to teach him about the games itself, whether it was Valorant, Smash, or other games that he played? Or was he doing pretty much like that Wii methodology where he was just serving against himself? Was he trying to self-teach the whole way through? Or did he have people within the gaming space or the esports space that was coming in and coaching him and mentoring him and just like teaching him how to be good at video games?
Yeah, it was interesting. We took him to, was it Rutgers?
Oh yeah, in Rutgers. He was in grade school.
Yeah, and he's like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And we take him to this Rutgers college tournament for Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And he went there. He beat one guy. He was really happy that he beat this one guy, because he had heard of him. And but he didn't really do well on that. But it was nice. These teenagers gathered around. They were like, "This kid's 8. And he's here with us," and they started giving him tips and all that kind of stuff. But the coaches for Taekwondo's. There was a coach and one of the senior members of the Taekwondo team who coach him also, and they'd always tell me it's great. We tell him do X, Y, and Z, and he goes out there and does X, Y, Z, just like you told him. So there's that. The basketball coaches are other parents like us, so we just be like, Reggie was one guy, and I'd be like, Reggie, he's not happy about it. He's a little bit sulking over there. Can you get him back in the game or something? Do something with him. So, yeah. So we knew personally the coaches for his basketball groups, the teams and stuff like that. But yeah, he's had some really good coaches in his time. So.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like. Sorry, go for it.
No, but yeah, he kind of he was playing CS:GO. Which I believe his cousins on her side gave him the game. And he was like one of the top ranked players in CSGO, and that's how he got the invite to play Valorant. And I think he first started Valorant at the silver level.
It was like freshman high school. He was just playing with his friends.
And then
before COVID. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And about the time he got to be 14, he got a contract with the Wolverine Wolves or something. I can't remember. Wichita Wolves or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And he got a contract with them, and then that got bought out by I think Noble.
Okay.
And then we went to a LAN tournament because he always wanted to play in a LAN tournament in Boston, and that's where we met Xset, and then Xset got his contract from Noble.
Wow. So it was right around that like 14 years old mark is when it went from being competitive and playing video games to actually like here comes the career aspect of it? Was that like around
Yeah.
14
Yeah,
years?
Basically.
he was freshman high school like a year before the COVID start.
Incredible. That's that's wild to hear that it happened so early.
Wait,
And
it's funny because I had a paper route when I was 13. So I'm like, he's 14. We got, he's 15. He gets his working papers. He needs to get a part-time job. I told her I wanted to pay rent, but she was like, not having any of that. And then he comes to me and he's like, look, this, there's a contract. They want me to play. It was simple, a very simple contract. They're going to pay him X amount. He has to have a banner when he's streaming of the Wolves, in a stream. I was like, you know how to do that? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So, just real simple stuff. So I was like, yeah, if you want to do it, go ahead. I signed off on it. Talked to the
Amazing.
coach.
So
But, yeah, I signed off.
so I guess like that being the starting point, how do you as parents like navigate or handle that? Is it like there's school involved, there's friends involved, there's homework involved, there's now a professional career involved, there's I'm sure family stuff that's involved. Like how do you actually set it up in a way? And I ask this question because again, this is one of the things that I've gotten asked by quite a few parents that have their kids in gaming and esports. They don't know how to navigate this, and so I'm curious on what your approach was. Is like the onset of 14, very young to start your professional career. How do you navigate that as a parent to make sure that he's thriving everywhere while also still being able to push his potential in the gaming space at the same time?
Luckily, he went to Union Catholic High School, which had Sydney McLaughlin, the Olympic track star, who would actually have to go to Denver to train during school. So they were used to this professional athlete, athlete quotes, situation. They have a way of, they have a laptop they're given anyway for school. So they have a site that they have to log into to get all their work, and they do all the homework and submit it through that site, that type of thing. So they were very familiar with it. We weren't. And we're like, oh, we can do that? That's great.
That's very cool. And then I guess also with it, one of the things that you were mentioning was like, we talked a little bit about how he's kind of like, he's got that competitiveness in it because you guys had him in tournaments and events and training for a very young age. But then you also mentioned that when somebody tells him to do something like, hey, think about it this way or do this thing, he just instinctually or automatically goes out and does that in response to it. Do you think that like he has a unique ability to be very coachable as an individual, like very receptive to people's feedback or critique? And then if so, or if that is the case, what does that process look like if a coach comes up to him and says, hey, you should be doing this? Does he sit there and think about it, process it, and then create the output as a result of that? Does he just go out and like automatically do it? I'm curious on how that process works as a young player.
That's interesting. I mean, you'd have to ask his coaches. I do know that they, the kid, the senior member, his name was T, he would come to me and he's like, I just say anything to Zach and he just goes out and does it. So I don't know if, I'm sure he might have had questions or something about how they wanted it done, fine tune it or whatever, but I think he he can process it pretty quick in his head. He's very smart and straight A student throughout school, and he's very good, quick twitch. He has very good quick twitch.
True, I've seen the clips.
Well, we went to that LAN tournament. They had there was a guy there who's had some kind of system that was not. It was not aim
Labs?
AIM Labs. It wasn't AIM Labs. It was somebody else. And he was asking people to come and test out his system. And the guy comes over to me and goes, "You're Zekken's dad?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Zekken almost tripled everybody else's score on this thing. I mean, his hands are, it's amazing how fast he is, I was like, that's my boy,
He's got good hands. I like that.
That's it for me, yeah.
Well, the reason I asked that question is because I've seen players in the past where, and I guess this would be a question I'd have to ask probably directly to him, but let's say that a coach comes up to, this is the way I've seen in the past, is like a coach comes up to the kid, they say, hey, you should be doing this in game, or you messed up here, or you should try this, or this was good and you should think about this way. They'll like sit there and they'll almost play the game out in their head, or they'll very rapidly think about that or work it out through the game in their mind, and then be like, okay, that actually makes sense, and then just go right in and apply it. And because they see it in their head ahead of time, it's just like instantaneous click, and they can just execute on it. And I'm really curious if Zach has, again, this is a question probably directly for him. You guys might not know this, but if when he's told something, it's like it almost plays out in his mind. It grasps it instantly, and it can just execute it automatically. I don't know if there's any indication of that, or if you have any insight on that, but that's like the first thing that comes to my mind.
I think maybe because Zach grew up doing sports since day one, so he's used to working with the coaches and all the teams. The way I see it, Zach is a great team players, and he's very respectful to all his coaches and his team members. He really likes to win, every time they play. He always do his best in school, in sports. He always put his heart and mind in whatever task you will give him, he will do it.
That's awesome. I mean, that's an undervalued trait. I think a lot of players focus really, really hard on getting good at the game, but having that side of things where you're just a good teammate that puts your heart into it every single time, that's a skill that you almost can't teach sometimes, and it's really good to hear that he has that as well. You mentioned the first time you went to a LAN, or I think that was the first one, or an event or something. What was that like for you, for the two of you, where you're watching your kid get contracts, starting to play games online, but the first time that you're actually at an event, hearing the crowd, hearing the cheering, what did that feel like?
I remember that when Zach was like freshman or sophomore, like he said, "Mom, Dad, I want to meet my friends outside school." And then I asked him, "What do you mean?" That was like summer. Oh, it's for high school, like they might give a scholarship for colleges. That was his first alibi.
Yeah.
Like scholarship. I said, okay.
That was for her, because I was like,
Yeah, and they said, there's this guy named Marco who's gonna meet us, like the COO of Exet. I said, what do you mean? You're gonna meet him, So it was nice. We traveled with him in Boston, and then we met his online friends. I mean, the real people. Like I said, are you sure these are like your real friends? Because for me, I mean, I'm not a gamer, like just like other moms, I think. And for me, meeting people in person and play video games is kind of, I'm not so sure about that, but we will go with you. So we met his friends online. They're all nice, like almost the same age. And then it was a nice stadiums. So like one in a football stadium, right? Yeah. And then we met Marco.
It was a room.
Yeah, it's a big
large
stadium.
room, but it was
yeah.
a large room. But
yeah, sorry.
I don't think it was a gym.
We're trying to
Anyway.
remember. And then Marco, he's a very nice guy. He introduced himself, and then he went with one of his partners, like one of the former football players. And then he said, "Oh yeah, we like Zach's statistics, blah 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 blah." And I told him straight, "I hope this is not a scam."
Yeah, she's always about
Because
this.
I told him, I'm not really so sure why you're gonna pay my child to play video games, and he's in school. I want him to finish high school and go to college. And then he understand, and then he explained to us everything. And then from there, I always tell him like, my son's priority is to finish high school. I don't want him to drop out. Any kind of parents will not want to do that. I just want him to like have fun. Get ready in school and stay safe. And then from there, we were able to like negotiate everything, and it works out. And Marcus is a great boss. Like he's a family oriented. We had a meeting online like this one. We met the coaches and the IGL. So little by little, we're getting familiarized. And then from there, we approve. But during the tournaments, when they travel to other countries, of course, he's under 18. I need to be with him. I'm always there. I want to make sure that my child is safe.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. That makes sense.
Two things about this. One is, he told her this was all about scholarships.
In Boston.
He told me he wanted to see the difference between playing on a computer at home over the internet and playing on a LAN together. He goes, "Oh, the reaction times are different, Dad. You gotta see it. If I'm going to play on LAN, I gotta see the difference between the reaction time." And I found it interesting because it was Kevin Noy, some Patriot secondary guy. Whom honestly I didn't know who he was. But he plays for the Patriots, he's a professional player, and he was one of the guys who was part of the team, as it were. And he's like, this is what he goes, when I was being recruited, I was like your son. I was like, all these people are here to recruit, talking to my parents, trying to recruit me, and he goes, what's that like for you? Since you'd be like my dad, like what's it like? I was like, well, first off, I'm proud of him. I said, I think I've raised him where he can make his own decision. I'm not going to tell him what to do. He knows this world better than I do. So if he wants to play with Exet, then he has my blessing. We'll go. I negotiated the contract. I negotiated his first 2 contracts with them, but yeah. So but I trust his judgment. If he thinks this is a good team, then he'll. I'm not going to argue with it. He can do it. So, but yeah, it was pretty cool. So, yeah.
That makes sense. Like jumping back a little bit, where it's like I want to make sure that this isn't a scam. That would make a lot. If you don't know the esports side of things or the gaming side of things, and all of a sudden I think you said it was 14 or however old he was at that time, is starting to get paid to play video games, it would definitely feel like a scam. So I get that. That's really funny. And then also, sorry, go for it.
Well, growing up, they had the Nintendo championships in California, and I grew up in New Jersey, so my father was not sending me to California to play some video game for a golden cartridge, which is now worth a lot of money because it's a solid gold cartridge. But so I knew, and then other things was we'd go to like Toys R Us or something to buy stuff for him or whatever, and they'd have for some reason Smash Bros is the only game that comes to mind, but they'd have other games up there that people were playing professionally. And I'm like, oh, they make money playing that game too? And he's like, yeah. And I got talking to this guy, and he's like, oh yeah, all sorts of games get paid money to play games. And I'm like, okay. So I think my boy needs to play games. It might be just because I've never had a job I actually liked. So, I think if you can play video games for a living, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, no doubt at all. So playing video games is a living. With Valorant specifically, okay, so I think you said that he got one of the highest ranks in CS. I think CSGO is what you said. That led him into Valorant, but was there other games that he was potentially veering off to maybe go professional, whether it was like Rocket League or League of Legends or Dota or whatever else, Fortnite? Was he interested in any other games professionally, or was it strictly like CSGO into Valorant into being a professional Valorant player?
I think it went like that. He played those other games. And he's what?
Minecraft? Because he won in YouTube.
He never. I don't think he ever wanted to go pro. He actually, I'm watching him play Fortnite, and he shoots this dot like way across the screen, and they win or whatever. And he's like, "Dad, you should play Fortnite." And I'm like, "I don't even know what you just shot at. Like, I don't think I can play this game." I'm pretty sure that thing would have shot me before I ever shot it because I didn't see it.
I remember when, I can't remember how old I was, but I was trying to teach my dad how to play the first Xbox, and so it was like a controller, and he had never really used because it's 2 thumbsticks, right? He had never used that before, and he couldn't grasp how to use both thumbsticks at one time, so he'd have to walk forward, stop, use the other thumbstick to look around, stop, move forward again, stop. And he couldn't get the coordination of those 2 things together, and it was really funny.
Yeah.
That's one of the few memories I have of my dad trying to play video games.
Dude, there was one button and there was a joystick to go left and right, okay?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Pulling it back to the like event side of things, so I'm really curious on this as well. As being at events obviously probably has a lot of excitement, adrenaline, those types of things, but when you guys watch Zach, whether it's on Twitch, whether it's in person in an arena, do you guys feel the anxiety watching him play? Is it excitement? Is it fear? What do you guys feel while you watch him compete?
Interesting. Let her tell you.
Well, I always travel with Zach. I mean, I'm always excited and happy to be with him and the team. And the most enjoyable moment I had was when we were like watching with all the fans. Because let's say the Exit and Sentinel fans, they're all amazing. Like they respect us as parents of Zach, and we're like always like cheering for him. And for me, if they're like losing, I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack. I said, oh my god, don't shoot my boy. Because I'm not a gamer, and if he's winning, I said, woohoo, let's go. Like, I always love it, whether I'm watching in Twitch or in person. But of course, in person is more fun because the fans are there.
Yeah.
They really like cheer with each other, like especially when they win. But when they lost, it's just very sad. It's like a funeral, you know. That's the sad part.
Well, I just like waiting till Zach does something good and then I yell, "That's my boy!"
Because I think about this topic a lot because I know growing up for me, I played like soccer and some other sports as well, and whether it was my sisters or my parents on the sideline cheering for me, excited for me, like they know those sports. They probably played soccer at some point or something like that, so it's easy. Obviously, I'm their kid, so it's or their brother, so it's easy to cheer for it just because of that. But then they also understood it, and so I'm always curious on. Like, I see parents in stands or watching games, and they get very excited or very sad, depending on what's happening in the game, despite not knowing it. So I'm always curious on, like, what that reaction or that emotional experience is, actually watching your kid compete on a big stage in front of lots of people. So it's very interesting.
I play Valorant myself. In fact, I play every game that my son plays, except for Fortnite. I never really want to do that. But, you know, he had the games on the phone. I play Clash of Clans because he played Clash of Clans. I was telling my wife, oh, I need to make sure it's safe for him, so I need to play a game too. You know, but I like playing games. But so I kind of watch it, learn how, you know, stuff that they're doing. But I also understand that, you know, things happen in the game. You just can't see everything at once, you know. So stuff happens. But she'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe they shot him, you know. Like, well, he wasn't looking in that direction. Yeah, they shot him. You didn't see them.
Yeah.
So,
It's a fast game. I mean, within like less than 1 minute, you need to like win it. Like it's hard for me. I mean, me myself, if I'm gonna play, I don't think I can do it because you gotta be fast. You know, like I think the younger you are, the better because you're fast and great. But me, I'm old. Like. There's no way I'm gonna win. Like, you know, I'll be the first one that's gonna be dead. Like, that's why Valorant is a very amazing game, and it's for smart people. You know, every maps and every agents.
Agents, you gotta know all
Yeah,
that.
you gotta study it. It's not just playing video games. Like, it's a hard game.
It is interesting because
for smart
when I was a
people.
kid, I know the stats of every Yankee, let alone, you know, I know their positions, I know all their stats and all that kind of stuff. And I definitely don't pick up things like that as quickly as I used to. So.
Yeah, that's the way that I think about it, because like my world, the sports psychology, the sports science world, when I think about games, it's like our brain isn't really designed to handle that much information all the time, so consistently, so just like rapidly over and over and over again. And it's almost like a miracle that the brain can actually comprehend what's happening in Valorant at the speed at which it's happening. It's like, this is what I study, and it still blows my mind that people are people are capable of actually executing some of the things they do in the game. It's mind blowing. I do have another question for you, and this is a little bit jumping off of the topics that we have been on. And I guess this is kind of a question for other parents out in the ecosystem or the industry, because again, I've worked with, you know, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, whatever age range it is. I've worked with these kids, and their parents don't always know how to navigate it. They don't understand gaming. They haven't paid attention to the world. They don't know how it functions. They don't know what it means. They don't know all these things. I'm curious if you guys have any advice, like pretending like you're speaking to other parents that are asking you about this. Like, do you have any advice of, let's say that their kid was interested in esports and was pursuing a career in that, and they were like that 14, 15-year-old range. Do you have any advice of like how they should approach that?
Lately, what I notice, most of the schools, like high school and colleges, they do have esports now. So this is not just new. Unlike before when Zach is starting, I've never seen any schools that has esports.
Actually, Zach got an esports room. They actually made an esports room in his high school, in his honor.
Yeah, they started.
Wow.
So
he helped them, you know, pick out the computers and how to set up the stations and stuff like that.
So if you ask the schools, high school, colleges, even grade school, they know what the esport, you know, classes are, because
Yes,
they even
they
have
do.
that class in Union Catholic.
Even in his preschool, they had a
Yeah,
room.
they do have it. So
So
personally, when it comes to esports, I think it's very common now in all schools. But as a parent, I think you gotta give your child a chance to play the sports they love, and then try to know more about the team and the coaches. You know, it's always nice to have an open communication between your child, the coaches, the team, and of course the school. Like for example, when Zach is on tournaments during high school, I make sure that we have a meeting with the COO, the coaches, the principal, the school counselor, and all the teachers, because I always make sure that everything has been documented. So just in case, because it's hard to be a professional esports player if you're in school, but they need our support as a parent, and they also need the support from the team and the school. So it's a teamwork. You know, if that works out, it means to say you're in the right track. But if it's not working, maybe there will be some other options to do.
Gotcha. That's good advice. So you just said something that I'm actually also got a follow-up question on. So you said it's hard to be a professional. And I'm curious, like, again, with Zach being so young when he got into it, to him now obviously still being very young, but a little bit older as the years go by, have you
18,
noticed... Sorry, what's that?
He just turned 18.
Just turned 18
Yeah,
this
that's...
year.
So
Time
now
flies.
yeah, so have you noticed much of, like, changes because he's been in the professional scene, where it's hard in terms of like skills he's had to learn and develop that he didn't have going into the professional scene? Obviously, he was very coachable, very cerebral and thoughtful when it came to competing and playing games and learning. He had all those things before going into the professional scene, but have you seen skills that he's developed because he's in the professional scene, because it's hard, because it's stressful? Has he had any growth in those areas as a result of that?
Yes.
Well, he's a lot more independent than he used to be. Like, especially for an 18-year-old, like he goes out and he knows who he is, and I think that comes from his taekwondo training, his playing on a team sport, and that type of thing. I think I do think sports help kids learn how to I don't want to say behave, but you know, it helps them mature quickly, basically.
Yeah.
So the discipline and all that. So yeah.
That's the word I like. It's like, I think that whether it's taekwondo, whether it's music, whether it's any kind of sport or anything, I feel like they teach a certain degree of discipline that isn't really learnable in other areas in life. And so I would 100% agree with that. Was there anything else in terms of like things that he's learned or developed as a response to being a pro being hard, like whether it's resiliency, communication, management? Like, has he learned anything else because of how hard it is to be a professional?
Yeah, I've seen him grown a lot, especially when he's doing tournaments like international or local. Like, I've seen how he improved when it comes to communication, like how to deal with the fans, with school, and during tournaments and interviews. Like, it's a lot of improvement because his environment is wider compared to when you were in school, because school is just, you know, you're just indoor to school, go to your teachers. It's like your exposures is limited, but when you travel all over the world, you're gonna see, oh, so this is how people are, let's say for example in Brazil, in Denmark, Turkey. Oh, so this is how it works. Like, he had more friends and he see, oh, this is how it is in other countries. So his exposure is like a lot better, and the communication, and of course, I mean, what else? Yeah, there's a lot of improvement because he's a professional now compared to when he was in school.
Well, especially with interviews, like he never
Yeah.
really wants to talk, which I find odd because I really like to talk. And but he actually is a lot better at that now. Like he Sentinels do a lot of social
Meet and greet. Yeah.
meet and greet stuff,
greet.
but they do
Content, yeah.
social videos and things like that
Oh,
that
the
they
team
want.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
content, social content, and so that means he has to actually talk. So yeah, and he's a lot better at that now. He's not as shy as he used to be. That's for sure.
Right.
Gotcha. What about something like, and I would assume this is the case, like him being in competitive things all of his life, that probably gave him almost like an advantage or a one-up on everybody else, because I've seen a lot of players that come into professional esports, and up until that point, the only thing that they've really done is play like ranked or solo queue or those types of things. They then get on stage, and this is the first time that they've actually like competed, and the nerves kick in, the jitters kick in, performance anxiety starts happening. Do you think that like the taekwondo, the playing sports, the competitive side of everything that you guys taught him, did that help develop him or prepare him for handling performance anxiety, jitters, being on stage, failing, winning, all those types of things?
Yeah, I think so, especially with the taekwondo, because he was very popular because he never lost. He usually like never lost, so people like to come out to see him. But like his dojo, they didn't let people below green belt actually go to tournaments. So he was a green belt in the next promotion. He was going to start going to tournaments to spar with other people from other schools. So I played football in high school, and I knew like even though we're on a school bus, I knew you hear stories about like you drive into this town, they're going to throw rocks at you and stuff like that. And it makes you're a kid. You're like, really? Oh my God, I don't want to go to this place now. So I said to my boy, I said, we're going to the next tournament, and you're going to see what it's like to be at one of these tournaments, so that when you walk in for your first tournament, you don't have to worry about who's where and what. You just have to concentrate on what you're going to do. So he didn't want to go, but I'm like, your friends are going to be there. You can see them spar, and just go and watch and pay attention to what's going on in there. So that way you don't have to worry about it next time you come when you're actually going to spar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, I always tell him, have fun, you kick butt, no mercy.
I like that. Have fun and no mercy. That's a good combination.
Yeah,
I'm
you
a big
kick
fan
butt,
of that.
okay?
I'm gonna steal that line from you. I'm gonna say kick button or have fun and no mercy. That's gonna be my new line from now on. But what you just said, Paul, was I think it was really interesting because it's like you preemptively prepared him for what events were like by having him there before he was ready to be, or not ready to be at them, but like before he was allowed to compete, he was already getting exposed to what it was like competing, so that by the time he gets there, it wasn't like a new sensation or a novel sensation. He was just like, this is almost the norm. I'm ready for this, and there was no distractions because he was exposed to it already. And that's like, I think that was like that's a very interesting point that I don't hear very often. It's very cool to hear. Like that might be the reason or part of the reason why he set up to be able to handle competition is because he knows how to get in there to be prepared for the situation, see it ahead of time, and then he can just kind of like focus on what's important in front of him.
Yeah, well, like I said, I just thought about myself when I was his age, and I was like, well, the best thing to do is just get him in there so he doesn't have to actually hear any stories or anything like that. He can just go there and know what it is and not have to worry about it when he goes to play.
Yeah, that's very cool. So I have one more question, and then we can probably wrap it up there, I think. But is there any like interesting or fun memories that you have of Zach's journey that you think either set him up for success or just like funny stories you remember of him going through his gaming career or memorable moments of his gaming career that you think other people within the industry that maybe have kids or kids that are coming into the same spot, like things that they might like to hear?
I remember, when was that? When there was a long tech pause. He was like playing, juggling with the...
Oh, he's playing the cups.
Yeah, he's playing the
It's
cups,
cup
like juggling
stacking.
something, and then he's like throwing ball to the fans, something like that. It's like entertaining himself during the tech pause instead of getting stressed out and what's going on. He just, still a kid. Okay,
Well,
have fun. It's not the end of the world.
The funny thing about it is that his cousin on her side actually does competitive cup stacking.
Yeah.
And that's what he was doing. He was taking all the people's water cups and just stacking them up and then turning them down and stacking them up again, like his cousin. And he posted a clip of that on Twitter, and his cousin responded. He goes, "Where'd you get all those good stacking skills, Zach?" So that was kind of cool.
That's funny. This actually ties directly back into what you said of like go have fun. It sounds like even in the down times within the game, he's finding ways to have fun within it. And also, it seems like it ties in the competitiveness as well. It's like this cup stacking is not just mindless fidgeting. That's actually like a competitive
They
thing.
do
So that's
the
really cool.
rock scissor. What do you call it? The rock scissor.
Rock paper scissors.
All right, yeah.
Oh yeah. I've seen a clip of that one, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we're coming up here on time. I really appreciate you guys coming in to share some of the stories. Again, I've talked with a lot of parents within esports, and some of them they're not sure how they should approach it because they aren't familiar with esports and gaming. They don't know what to do to set their kid up for success, or whether they should be pushing them away or pushing them towards esports. They don't know how to handle somebody that's turning pro within a video game at 14 to 17 years old. So I really just wanted to talk to the two of you because I think that you guys have a valuable insight that other parents might be interested in, and I think is very rarely shared. So I just really appreciate you guys sharing stories, talking about your experience, and thank you so much for your time.
You're
No
welcome.
problem.
We're here for you.
Love talking about my boys. Not a problem.
For sure, for sure. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.